Young mechanic helps millionaire woman with a flat tire. What happens next will melt your heart. Jake Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stepped out of the auto shop, the smell of motor oil still clinging faintly to his jumpsuit. At 22, he had grown accustomed to long shifts repairing cars, yet he always found satisfaction in seeing vehicles restored to perfect working order. Today, his brown hair was slightly tousled, and his hands bore the usual grease stains. He walked toward the parking lot, ready to head home, when something unusual caught his eye: a sleek, silver SUV parked awkwardly on the side of the road, one tire completely flat. A woman was leaning against the vehicle, her arms crossed in mild frustration. She was in her late 30s, with blonde hair tied neatly into a bun, wearing a cream blouse and beige pants that looked expensive enough to be designer. Her high-heeled shoes were slightly dusty from stepping onto the roadside, and her expression was a mix of irritation and helplessness. Jake could tell she wasn't used to handling car problems herself. Without thinking, he called out to her politely, "Hi! Do you need a hand with that?" The woman straightened, a surprised but grateful smile crossing her face. "Yes, please." "I don't even know where to start," she admitted, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Jake grabbed his toolbox from the back of his pickup truck and knelt beside the SUV. He quickly assessed the situation, loosening the lug nuts and carefully lifting the car with the jack. His hands moved with ease and confidence, a combination of skill and experience honed over years in the garage. He worked efficiently, but with enough care to make it clear he respected the vehicle. Victoria, he learned her name as she introduced herself, watched silently, impressed by both his competence and the quiet professionalism in his demeanor. Despite her high-powered life as a tech CEO, there was something grounding about watching someone so focused on a simple, honest task. Jake's movements were methodical, almost rhythmic, as he swapped the flat tire for the spare, tightened the bolts, and lowered the SUV back to the ground. The sun reflected off the car's polished surface, highlighting the contrast between her glamorous world and his hands-on reality. Finally, Jake stood up, wiping his hands on a rag and smiling. "All set. That should get you home safely," he said, a hint of modest pride in his tone. Victoria thanked him warmly, her eyes lingering for a moment in genuine appreciation. It was a brief encounter, but one of those rare moments where strangers connect over something simple yet meaningful. Neither of them knew it yet, but this seemingly ordinary afternoon would set the stage for a chain of events that would touch both their lives in ways they never expected. Victoria offered to pay Jake for his help, but he waved her off with a grin. "No worries, ma'am. Helping someone shouldn't cost anything," he said, brushing off the gesture with casual charm. She insisted anyway, handing him a small tip, and he accepted, chuckling. The exchange felt surprisingly personal, more than just a transaction. Victoria had grown used to efficiency and distance in her world, where people often worked for rewards rather than kindness. Something about Jake's sincerity struck her. It was rare to meet someone so genuine, and she found herself lingering a moment longer, reluctant to leave the scene. As Victoria started her car, she noticed Jake watching with a shy, polite smile. "You know," she said, her tone softer now, "I usually don't meet people like you in my daily routine. You're different." Jake shrugged, feeling a warmth in his chest. "I just do my job and try to help when I can," he replied modestly. There was a light in her eyes that suggested curiosity and admiration, and he felt an unexpected connection. A simple act, a flat tire fixed, had created a subtle bridge between their very different lives. Over the next few days, Victoria couldn't stop thinking about Jake. She sent a thank you note, along with a coffee gift card to the auto shop. A small gesture meant to show appreciation beyond words. Jake was pleasantly surprised when he received it. It wasn't just the gift. It was the acknowledgement that someone noticed him and valued his effort. For Jake, it was encouraging, a reminder that even small acts of kindness can resonate. And for Victoria, it was the start of a story that went far beyond any business transaction or polite encounter. A week later, Victoria returned to the shop, not because she had another car problem, but because she genuinely wanted to see Jake again. The moment she walked in, he looked up, wiping his hands on a rag. Both of them laughed awkwardly at the coincidence. The conversation that followed was easy and light-hearted, yet beneath the laughter, a deeper connection began to form. They discovered shared interests, small quirks, and even mutual respect for their very different paths in life. It was as if that sunny afternoon had opened the door to something meaningful. From that day onward, their relationship grew naturally. They met for coffee, talked about dreams and challenges, and gradually found comfort in each other's company. Victoria appreciated Jake's grounded nature and sincerity, while Jake admired her intelligence and determination. What had started as a chance encounter over a flat tire blossomed into a genuine friendship and eventually something deeper. Their story became a reminder that simple gestures can spark extraordinary connections, bridging worlds that seem entirely different yet perfectly complementary when two hearts are open to the unexpected.